Hey, welcome to Believe in Clemson Football. I'm Will Vandervoort. That's Alex Dodd. Appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Sorry we're a little bit behind. Again, Alex had technical difficulties. I don't know when he's going to get it straight.
One of these days, I'll just leave my computer charger in the wall here, and I won't have to go searching for it.
Yeah.
One of these days.
One of these days you're going to learn. I don't know when, but y'all, you got to know Alex. Alex is a typical sports writer. He procrastinates to the last minute. It's just it's what we do. It's who we are. Not ashamed to admit it. It's what we do. But that's why our stuff's good, right? Because we write better on deadline. So
working on deadline. That's what we do.
That's what we do. See, Alex has got the Boston Red Sox hat there. Everybody thinks the Red Sox are going to win the World Series.
I just want them to keep winning ball games. At this point, after the last 3 years, since 2018, I just want them to keep winning ball games, and anything else that comes on top of that, we'll celebrate.
I was going to wear my Pirates hat tonight, and they're up 3-0 right now. But I decided probably, the best. That probably wasn't a good look for the show. So I went with the Air Force hat. So representing all those out in the Air Force. My brother was in the Air Force. My dad was in the Air Force. And Alex, I'm out there. We're near the academies where you're at in Colorado Springs. So, I told you the other day I played Air Force in the game, college football 26, and I beat them 71-21.
That's not cool, man. That's un-American.
But I played at Colorado State because I wanted to see what it looked like. And of course, I've seen the stadium in person. We drove past it when I was out there visiting you last year for the Denver game, and so that was fun. But anyway, we'll get to talking Clemson football. Appreciate you guys joining us tonight. As always, we got a pretty good show, I think, planned for you. Also, your comments, we'd love to hear about them. Talk about if you want to ask me questions about fall camp, please feel free to do that. Be happy to answer anything that I think I know or been told by the coaches and stuff. What I saw, got to watch the Tigers for about 5 periods yesterday, Alex, and over at Jerry Meadows. So that was fun to watch, and they had full pads yesterday for the first time in camp. Today, Clemson did not have a regular practice. They went and did a field trip day out at the lake. Dabo does that, every summer with them, and so that was yesterday. And then they came back in tonight as we're doing this podcast right now. They're doing their team meetings and things like that to go over to get ready for their first two-a-day tomorrow. So they'll have practice tomorrow morning over at Jerry Meadows, and then they'll go to the stadium tomorrow night and do like a walkthrough kind of practice as they get ready for their scrimmage on Saturday to be the first scrimmage of the season of the fall practice sessions. So they get 2 scrimmages, and they get like a half scrimmage as well. So the first of their 2 major scrimmages, though, are going to be on Saturday. Dabo said that they're going to have a lot of former Tigers in town. They're going to that are invited to watch the scrimmage. The media is not allowed to watch the scrimmage. We haven't been for years.
When was the last time you got to do that?
The last one I could remember was Dabo's first year. So that'd been like 2009. I don't think
Will probably wrote something in 2009, or Larry, and
I didn't do
it. Dabo's like,
I know this
no more. We got Larry and Will out here writing about us.
Well, I'll say this honestly. I know it wasn't me because I was working with Clemson at the time, and so I know it wasn't me.
Get out of jail free card there for Will,
right? Yeah, and I actually, to be honest with you, I probably got to watch more than I think maybe. Now that I think about it, because I worked at Clemson, I think 2012 would have been my last scrimmage that I got to see in person because I was with Clemson. So I got to see those things. And I helped Tim and stuff like that. So Tim Barray, I'm talking about, I helped him with the stuff. So I think that's a little different. So I will then say, I guess since 2012, I haven't seen a scrimmage at Clemson. So anyway, but yeah. And be honest with you, I don't think it would be Larry that would have written anything that would have made Dabo mad about that. It would have been a couple other people maybe, but Larry's pretty good about being fair about what he sees with his own eyes and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I mean, but if he saw somebody, roll their ankle and wrote about it, then Dabo probably would have been mad at a scrimmage.
I don't know. I can't say whether that's happened or not. But anyway, Anyway, appreciate you guys joining us. As always, we are brought to you by the Clemson Insider. For you, the number one spot for Clemson athletics and recruiting. Go on over to the ClemsonInsider.com. Appreciate them being with us each and every week and allowing us to use the platform here. And talk Clemson sports. You can find us on the Clemson Insider's YouTube page, the Clemson Insider Facebook page, as well as on Twitter at Clemson Insider, or X. Golly, think it one day I'm going to get
one
it
of
right.
these. I mean, it's only been X for what, like 2.5 years?
2.5 years or something. Yeah. So at X, you can also follow at Alex Dodd Show on X and at Steeler Will on X as well. We appreciate all of you that are joining us, however you're joining us, and we hope you continue to watch. We got a fun one today. We're going to talk about Dabo Swinney's rant from yesterday. We're going to pull that up here in a minute as we got the clip, by the way, so YouTube knows. This is my video, YouTube. I recorded this video yesterday. I was at the press conference yesterday, so I'm just letting YouTube people know that do their police work that this is not a video I stole or something.
This video on our video is courtesy of Will.
Because it's courtesy of me. Video. I took the video, and this is I work for the Clemson Insider, and this is our video. So anyway, so that's for the YouTube police out there that patrol this to make sure everybody's using what they're supposed to. And I get it. They're doing their job. They're supposed to make sure that nobody's using other people's videos and stuff and copyright rules and stuff like that. So anyway, want to throw that out there. We'll also talk about Chris Felicia, who also is known as the Bear. Used to work with ESPN as an executive producer and producer there. Now he's with Fox Sports. He had a podcast that he does, and he kind of finally, Clemson fans out there, somebody doesn't believe in Clemson. And Bear had his reasons. I'm going to kind of dispute some of his reasoning because I didn't agree with it, Alex. I don't know if you watched it or not, but I'll, we'll talk about that and kind of go over what I'm talking about there. And then also we'll go over the top 25 coaches poll that was released on Monday, I believe. And we'll kind of go over that in case you were living under a rock and don't know where the Tigers are ranked by the coaches. We'll definitely get you updated on that as well. So we got a lot to ground to cover, a lot of things to do here. But yeah, Alex, I want to kind of just start it off. I don't know, did you hear Dabo's rant yesterday? And what was your thoughts on it just before we get to Coach Swinney?
Oh yeah, I saw his rant. Also, not surprising that he's not as aware of what a aggregator is. As opposed to an actual writer.
That's the best part.
Poor Chris Lowe. He probably thought Dabo was mad at him for the first minute of the rant until
Ross interrupted him.
Until Ross was like, just so you know, it wasn't Chris Lowe from ESPN that said that. It was somebody else.
Yeah, he was letting it know that. I think Dabo knew but he was making it because he didn't want Dabo to sound like he was talking about Chris Lowe's article. He wanted us to know he wasn't talking about Chris Lowe. He's talking about the aggregator. Anyway. Alex, here we go. Let's go ahead and throw that up, and then we'll discuss it.
Me today, and that's the most clickbait bull crap I've ever seen in my life. I mean, talk about taking something out of context. I have no idea who wrote it, but it's just the way it goes. That's so out of context. I've never said that. I've never said this team is going to. I've said we were the first 15-0 team. And I believe we can go be the first 16-0 team. Like, why not? Like, let's go do it. And I said it's a race to do that. And, boy, somebody writes some jacked-up clickbait article,
I should clarify, too. You were sent an aggregator talking. Yeah, it was presented correctly. Article. Yeah, it was presented correctly. You were not sent the original article. You were sent the aggregator taking that.
What's an aggregator? What is that? What do you –
not speak to that person. That person found that quote. Yes.
Oh, yeah, no, just a friend sent me this article because I showed it to him. I said, what is this? Because my friend's like, who wrote this? I hope you never interview with this guy. Who is this guy? And I don't even know what he's talking about. And I was doing an interview actually with Eric McLean, and I just looked at my text message and I was like, I'm like, what is it? What is this article? And then he was telling me about it. I don't know what an aggregator is, but whatever. But yeah, I mean, come on, man. Like, can we just like get something accurate? And yeah, I do believe we can be the first 16-0 team ever. We were the first 15-0 team, so why would I not believe that? I never said this team's going 16-0 like some jackleg tries to write. to create some article and followers on his Twitter account or whatever.
That's how I read it. I was just making
Thank you. That's how you read it?
Yeah,
okay.
not a direct this year, just
Yeah, why not? Why would I not believe that? Why would I not believe that? I think we were the first 15-0 team. First one. And it's been done now. You know, somebody's got to be the first, so why not us? Why not? Like, why not? Somebody's going to do it. So it's a race to do it. I believe we can do it. I don't know if this team will do it. Well, ask me in January. We'll find out. But somebody's going to do it. So why?
And that was Dabo Swinney yesterday after practice. He met with the media, and that was about a 2.5-minute clip from when he was asked about, the comment, Alex, the aggregator. Now, I don't know who did it. There was a couple people that kind of did it. It was about Chapel Fowler. Ross came back in after the press conference to clarify again that it wasn't Chris Lowe. And also just like, he said he didn't want to say who it was. But Chapel says, who's a friend of the show and all, Chapel says, with the state newspaper, he's like, well, I read it on SI. And then I saw that not only SI, but Athlon also had it, the same kind of headline, Swinney thinks Clemson's going to go 16-0 or Belize or whatever it was. And then also, what's that one called? Fanside that had one too. That was even probably the worst of the bunch. And that might have been the one Dabo was talking about, because it really the guy kind of like got real snooty in the article where, he acted like Dabo was like, how dare Dabo think Clemson could be the first team to go 16-0? And our good friend William Qualkenbush went off on that rant today. If you haven't seen or heard that on WCCP, the Roaring Clemson, he went off on that rant like, how dare Dabo? How dare Clemson? Come on, dude. Clemson was the first team to go 15-0. So why not Clemson? They could go 16-0. It's not like they haven't done something close to that before. Ohio State hasn't gone 15-0. They didn't do it. Alabama under Nick Saban never did it. They never went 16-0 or 15-0, excuse me. LSU did it, yes, and I think Georgia did it, and that was it. Those are the only 3 programs that did it. And so, why not Clemson? Why not Dabo Swinney? And that's what Dabo was talking about there. Why not us? We can do it. Why you got to act like that's why he was meaning by that. So I do think it was the fan-sided, because he kept saying, why not us? Why can't we do it?
And the other thing about it, too, is if you actually read that Chris Lowe piece, which I thought was a
good piece,
a really good piece, just
Chris
about,
is a great writer,
about Clemson football and about how, Dabo stuck with his players, and, his players know that he trusts them because he's stuck with them. And then he ends that article with that saying, we were the first to go 15-0. Why couldn't we be the first to go 16-0? Is essentially how it reads. So it's kind of silly somebody would take that out of context, but I mean, it's a fair point. It is a race to see who goes 16-0. A little bit more difficult this playoff, I think, to go completely undefeated than the previous format. It's just, and we talked about it last year with Ohio State. To some degree in this format, you've got to be the best team in the playoff, not just the best team in college football. There's another element to it.
Well.
And you got to do it
and
for
healthy and everything.
Yep, for multiple weeks in a row at the end of the season when everybody's banged up.
Right. It's like
so
the
it
NFL
is a race,
playoffs.
but it's a lot more like the NFL playoffs than it is, like historic college football.
Now the difference is college football has still got the one thing the NFL doesn't, and the NFL has parity, and so because of free agency, the NFL, it is the team that's the healthiest and playing the best that wins it at the end of the year, more so than the team that maybe is the best team with the best roster, right? Where in college football, you still have those teams with the best roster are going to be in position, and they're going to be the ones you're never going to, I don't ever think in college football we're going to see the 12 seed come and win the national championship. That's not going to happen. They may make a run and maybe get to the semifinals or something like that, but it's almost impossible for a team who's 9, 10, 11, and 12, I think, to win the national championship, because it's just going to be so hard to do They're going to have to go on the road to start off, and then they're going to have to play the best the next week, and then the third best after that. And then if they get to the next week, they're going to play the fourth best. And then if they get that, they're probably going to play the best, highest seed. So it's like crazy, how deep it is.
Look at how it went for Notre Dame last year. Having to take a longer
they were the 5
road
seed.
Having to take a longer road to the national championship. They had to play that first week without the bye because they aren't in a conference.
Well, so did Ohio State, but the difference was the difference was, when you looked at, they had to play the number 1 seed.
Right.
Because they were the 5 seed. And so they had to go play the number 1. So Ohio State also played it, but Ohio State had the better roster. So they were able to survive it. And that's what I mean by that. It's just college football, because of NIL, because of now the settlement, stuff, revenue share, that the teams who can afford to dish out all that money and get that extra money, which is what NIL is, those are the teams that are going to have the best rosters. And generally the best roster, the deeper roster, is going to win a championship, because that's what happens in NFL. And it's the team that's healthiest, that they got the best and deepest roster at that time of the year, they win it. And that's why Ohio State won it last year, because they had that best and healthiest roster of all of them at the end of the year, where, Penn State had some injuries that were hurting them. I know Notre Dame did going into that championship game. There's a couple of guys questionable and stuff like that. And that means when you got teams like that, you're deeper and you're able to pull off of that a little bit. So Clemson right now is one of those teams that's deep. And we're going to, that's one of the things I want to talk about. And again, if you guys got some comments, is it ridiculous to think Clemson can go 16-0? Is Dabo Swinney right or wrong, Alex, that why not Clemson? They can do it just like so. I'd like to hear some other people out there what they think about that, and do they think Clemson can, go 16-0? Maybe not this year, but maybe in the future of this college football format. However, it's going to be maybe a 16 format here and then the next couple of years. But Alex, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why Clemson couldn't be a team to do that. Now, I don't think Clemson's going to go 16-0 this year. Personally, I just think the road's too tough to go 16-0. But if you look at like a 2018 Clemson or a 2019 LSU or that Georgia team, particularly those first two, I think there's no reason. I mean, that Clemson team, whoever you ran out in front of them, they were going to beat the crap out of, because that's what they did in 2018. So they would have went 15-0, 16-0. They might have went 18-0 if they would have had to. And then, same thing for that LSU team. I mean, they steamed after they hit a couple hiccups in the middle of the year. They rolled everybody the rest of the way. So I don't think they would have had any problem doing that either. So there's no reason it's not possible for somebody to do it. And there's no reason to think it couldn't be Clemson. I mean, there's a reason why the coaches have Clemson where they do in the poll. And there's a reason why all these national analysts are all of a sudden falling in love with Clemson. And it's because of what you mentioned. It's the roster. It's the depth. It's the coaching on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, Clemson. And so people understand Clemson offensively is going to be as good as anybody in the country. And people don't know this. I was talking to one of our friends earlier, and we were talking about this very subject. And he says, well, Clemson's offense, blah, blah, blah. And he's talking about the injuries and all that. I said, yeah, with all the things you just said, losing Phil Maffa, offensive line banged up at the end of the year. Phil Maffa wasn't healthy from the Louisville game on, right? So you had no running game, yet you still finished in the top 10 nationally in scoring offense.
Yeah.
And you finished in the top 20 nationally in total offense. I think top 15, actually. And so it's like
you were one-dimensional for half the year.
One-dimensional for half the season. For more than half the season, really.
Yeah.
So, look, so that's how good this offense is, guys. And I think they're going to be even better this year, because I think they added a weapon in Tristan Smith. And I think moving Adam Randall to running back is the right move. I know you guys are skeptical, and you're like, but trust me, I know what I'm hearing from people who know football that are watching practice. And it's not just the coaches telling me these things. These are people that are actually there watching practices. Adam Randall is going to be really good for this offense. He's going to help open it up even more. So, I know some people don't get it. That's one reason why a lot of people are on this Clemson train. Okay. And then the way they took apart Matt Luke, who's one of the best offensive line coaches in the country, you're already seeing the benefits of it. Last year, Clemson's offensive line, when they were healthy, they were leading the ACC in rushing yards per game. They had a healthy offensive line, healthy Phil Moffitt. They were leading the ACC in rushing yards, and they were leading the ACC in fewest sacks allowed.
Yep. When
they started struggling was when the injuries started piling up. Now, the best thing about this is a lot of young guys played last year that they probably didn't want to play, but they had to play. But now it's going to benefit Clemson this year.
Well, yeah, I mean, it already has benefited you because it helps you with your retention.
Yeah,
because these guys proved that they can compete for these spots. So you got retention out of it. But then,
and you got depth out of it.
Yeah, you have depth. And it kind of goes to Scott's point here. Scott Millsap gets in on Facebook and says, I don't know, with multiple rounds of playoffs and teams not being able to stack their roster with multi-year depth, it's going to be hard to go 16-0. And, I agree with that. And I will say
so too. But I think teams can stack their depth, though. I mean, guys, Ohio State and Texas A&M are going to buy their players, guys.
Well, that's what I was about to say.
The NIL stuff, the third-party stuff, you just heard the commission just come back and say it and say, oh, we're sorry. Yeah, the collectives can stay. They can do that. That's the worst thing if you're a Clemson fan you wanted to hear is the collectives can continue to be the third-party people for the NIL. That's going to allow teams like Texas and Georgia and Ohio State to get a little bit extra players than Clemson can get because they can give them a little bit more money. And because they have those kind of boosters, and that's what that basically is, guys. And so teams are guys are going to be able to stack rosters because they're going to buy players.
I mean, teams already are.
I mean, they already are.
Look at Texas's roster last year and what they have coming back this year. Look at Ohio State's roster last year and how they've retooled things there. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're going to be an elite echelon of teams that, top 10, 15 programs in the country that are going to be able to go out and get that depth. They're going to be able to pay for it.
Clemson's going to be somewhere in the middle of that top 15. Clemson's not going to be able to be top 4 doing that or top 5. They might be able to fall into the somewhere between 6 and 10, to do it. So, understand, though, where things are at in the landscape of college football. And, yeah, I think it's going to be hard to go 16-0. I'm with y'all 100%. I think that's just, that's asking a lot. I even said the other day, I think it's better for a team to lose later on in the year. Yeah, I saw Justin Kirkland saying, I see losses to LSU, UNC, University of Louisville, and South Carolina. New DC and too many questions. I don't know where the too many questions come from. The new DC I get, but where are the other questions? I mean, the only couple questions I have, and that's running back, which I do feel good about, though, even though I understand that being a question mark for fans. Tight end, I guess, is a question mark, yes. And then maybe depth at cornerback is a question. Yep. That's it. Where are the other questions? Because it's not on your defensive line. It's not at linebacker. And really, it's not at safety. I feel fine with the depth they have at safety and the players they have there. So other than those 3 spots, and please tell me we're not talking about punter. But if we are,
then hopefully you don't have to do it very much if you think
the goal is not to punt, right? And I think if you got one of the best offenses in the country, you're going to at least get past midfield most times. And you're going to be able to punt, even if your punter can only go 30 yards, he's still going to punt them down inside the 15 if that's the case. But speaking of punter, though, I think, and Dabo kind of said it yesterday, from what I've been watching at practice and the chances we've got to, Robert Gunn's been the most consistent. And Dabo Swinney pretty much said that yesterday. If you go listen to his comments when he was asked about the punting job, that Robert Gunn has consistently been the guy that has, hasn't messed up, hasn't shanked punts. So I think Robert Gunn's going to get the job when it's all said and done. And he's going to be your kickoff guy and your punt guy, which is good because you using him for a scholarship, And so I'm glad that he's going to be the guy that's going to be that's going to win that job. I think he's the guy that's going to win it.
Yeah, and he's obviously got the leg to do it. Obviously, punting's a lot different than trying to kick a field goal or kicking off. But, he's been in the program for a while. That's another thing that you feel like's a positive for Robert Gunn is, he's kind of been around the block a little bit. Mm-hmm. So you'll see what he can do for you.
Put Scott's last comment up there. Scott says, I don't agree with trusting depth based on transfer portal. A team that gets old playing with the same system is a big advantage. I agree with that, Scott, and that's why I think Clemson has a chance to be a national championship contender. And that's one of the things that I agree with you on. Now, that is true. However, the Clemsons of the world are few and far between. And so, it's maybe Penn State, we could say. Maybe we could throw Georgia or Ohio State in there, even though they do go to the portal some too. But they're like Clemson. They build their team, and they build off of, retaining players and building through their freshman class, progression of players.
Through high school recruiting.
Through the high school recruiting part. So there are a few teams that do it, but the majority of teams don't. Majority of teams are like, Florida State, and which is a bad example, but Florida State, I would say Arizona State last year. That's a team. Indiana team that those teams benefited from the transfer portal and getting better. So I think you're going to see teams like that. And so I think what's going to be, teams like Clemson, for instance, like next year, even though Clemson, I like the way Dabo's doing it, that he's retaining players and they're growing up through the system and all that. But it means pretty much every 4 years you're going to be like you are now. Right. Whereas teams like Ohio State and Georgia, they're going to bring in more transfer portal people than Dabo is, because that's just how it is. They're going to go hit those needs. Now, if Dabo starts doing that, if he starts saying, hey, look, I need to get 3 offensive linemen out of the transfer portal so we can have a little bit better depth and a little bit more competition, or I need to go get a starting cornerback out of the transfer portal because I need somebody over there who's done it. Then if Dabo starts doing that next year, sort of like he did this year with Will Helt, right? Then, okay, all bets are off. Then now Clemson's definitely going to be in that game as well. And then through the high school recruiting and all that, they'll be able to build some depth as well. So I think it's all just based on who the team is, Alex. I really do. That's where I kind of see it. Who the school is.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm glad you brought up, too, that there's kind of a narrative, I feel like, amongst Clemson fans that Clemson is the only school who tries to build a roster through high school recruiting and the only school who tries to develop players. And that's just not true. Like you mentioned, those other teams in that upper echelon, the Texas, Georgia, Ohio State, those schools, Penn State, Notre Dame, those schools are building their roster through high school recruiting and supplementing with the portal.
Exactly.
A more aggressive style of portal building than, say, like what Dabo did this year. But I do think if Will Helt makes a huge impact on this team, which he very may well do, and if Tristan Smith is a difference maker on this team.
And hear nothing but great things for him in practice.
And if those guys come in and they make an impact, that's something that could lead Dabo to say, well, hey, maybe next year instead of bringing in 2 or 3 guys, we'll bring in 6 or 7 guys. Which next year you might need to bring 6 or 7 guys in, depending on what your attrition looks like with the NFL draft and graduation.
It's there's a lot of things when you look at Clemson, why they're in good shape this year and why I think they're going to be a good football team. I think they're going to be in the mix. I think they're going to be a top 10 team. Now, are they going to win the national championship? I don't know. I think when you get after what we were talking about to start the show was it's going to be hard to go 16-0. It's going to be hard to win a national championship going forward. Yeah. I think going through a playoff makes it more challenging. So I think when they get to the Final Four, I think the Final Four are going to be more even than they've ever been before. We saw that last year and how competitive the semifinal games were for the most part. I think we're going to see that more so every year now that we're in this system. And I think when you get to the Final Four, it's anybody's ball game. So I think the goal is it's like college basketball. The goal is to get to the Final Four.
Yeah.
And then it's really the team that's the hottest at that point probably is going to win. And that holds true in any sport, right? And so I think, if you're Clemson, your goal is to get to the Final Four and then see what happens from that point on. And to get to that point, Alex, you got to win your conference in most years, right? And then also win those games against LSU and South Carolina in your non-conference games as well. But the biggest thing, and this is what I've been trying to tell people, and I wrote a column about it. What's the most important game on Clemson's schedule this year? It's not LSU. It's not South Carolina. The most important game, in my opinion, is Georgia Tech, because that's your first conference game. You're on the road, and everybody, if you don't remember what happened 2 years ago when Clemson lost its first conference game, they went boom. They lost that first conference game to start the year, went boom, just went downhill. When Clemson starts off the conference season well, they've won the ACC 9 times in the last 13 years. Okay. Or, so that's a pretty good indication. 9 times, actually it's 9 times in 12 years. Only 3 times they didn't. Twice they lost the season opener. They lost at Florida State in 2012, and they didn't win the ACC that year, and then didn't play for the championship, and then they lost to Duke. Those are the only 2 times they lost. And then the one other time they won their opener, but they didn't go because they lost to Florida State midway through the season. It's only 3 times since 2011 that Clemson has lost that season opener and didn't go to the championship, right? Or twice, I guess I should say. So it doesn't. So in other words, you're in good shape if Clemson wins that first game.
Yep.
And that's why Georgia Tech is so big, because Georgia Tech is going to be a very good football team. And Georgia Tech in the conference, after Clemson, they have a conference schedule. They can almost run the table. And so if you lose to Georgia Tech, then you need Georgia Tech to lose twice to get tiebreakers.
Yep.
So that's why that game is so important. And so, Will, why is that game so important? Well, you want to win the ACC to get the automatic bid. That way you're not sweating it at the end of the year. Take care of the automatic bid and you're in the playoffs. And if you beat LSU, that's great. And if you beat South Carolina, that's great. That's going to add sugar to your pot. But, don't act like the Georgia Tech game. The Georgia Tech game is most important. Conference games are more important than LSU and South Carolina because you want to get to that championship game first and foremost.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the most important thing in this current iteration of the playoff where, your 4 highest ranked conference champions move up. But at the same time, if you're not beating LSU and South Carolina or some combination of the two, you're probably starting out in that 12 seed again.
Well, if you lose, but I think if you're Clemson and let's say you go, you split LSU, South Carolina, and you win the conference and say, let's go 11-1.
Yeah, then you're in that.
You're in the top 5.
Right. But you definitely can't lose both.
Right.
And not be
Clemson's proven in the past, Clemson has lost one game, won the ACC, and been not in the top 4. They were number 1. And they've also another time lost an ACC game and were number 2. And then they also one time lost an ACC game and they were number 2. So Clemson gets the benefit of the doubt more than say, like if that's Pittsburgh, yeah, you're right, Alex. If that's SMU,
right.
You're correct. But it's Clemson. Clemson gets a little bit more of a bump because of who they are and what they've done in the past than other ACC teams get. And so Clemson wins the ACC. Clemson, and they only have 1 loss, or Clemson wins the ACC and they're undefeated. Clemson's in the top 5.
And
if they're undefeated, they're probably in the top 4. And so without a doubt in my mind. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at. I know a lot of people talking about Georgia Tech games. Some people say Georgia Tech's overrated. Some people are like me. They say Clemson is Georgia Tech is good, like me. They're worried about it. Georgia Tech concerns me too, and I'll tell you why. Alex, tell them why.
Because of Haynes King.
Haynes King is the exact reason why. And it's like, that he presents a different problem. And he's a better passer than he was a couple years ago when Clemson played him. He's a lot smarter player than he was, but he could run the football.
And he's just as tough as he was.
and he's tough. He's going to be hard to bring down. He's not easy. And then they got one of the best running backs in the country to go along with him. They got a very good offensive line. And you know what? They got a football coach who can freaking coach his team up.
Yep.
And that is 3 things that make you concerned about Georgia Tech. Do I think Georgia Tech's going to win the ACC? No. Do I think Georgia Tech can contend for the ACC? Yes. And that's what makes them a dangerous team, because you're going to their house to play that game. And
they're bringing back the whiteout for the first time.
It's going to be a day game, though, right?
Whiteout at noon in Bobby Dodd. It's going to be hot.
Bart is going to be mad. If they're in the whiteout and it's got a bright sunny sky with the Bart Boatwright's our photographer. He that contrast with the white and the blue sky, he's going to be mad about it. He's going to be like, oh, man. In other words, it's hard for them to do their jobs to take pictures with that kind of. So he's going to hope for an overcast day to help balance out the white in the stands. But they're really having a whiteout. They've already called that?
Yeah, they already announced it's going to be a whiteout.
Okay. So it's going to be 35,000 Clemson fans and then the whiteout for the Georgia Tech fans. So there'll be a lot of orange and a little bit of white in the stadium.
It'll look like you're playing at like a really crowded small bowl game. So like you're playing the Independence Bowl.
Right.
Everybody showed up.
Yeah, except everybody showed up and there'll be a lot of orange.
Because it's going to be like a pretty, fairly neutral crowd. And it might be like 60-40.
It's going to be like, 60-40 Clemson.
60-40.
60-40 Clemson. I can tell you that. I've been there too many times, even with the best Georgia Tech teams there was. And there was more Clemson fans than Georgia Tech fans. So
a lot of Clemson people live in Atlanta.
That's my point. A lot of
Georgia Tech fans or Georgia Tech grads don't care about football.
They don't care about football. And that's fine. That's who they are. So anyway, let's move along here, Alex. Let's talk about I want to talk about the poll first here, okay? And guys, keep throwing questions at us. We'd be happy to talk to you about them. Appreciate you guys participating. Top 25 coaches poll came out the other day, and so people can understand the FCA is the American Football Coaches Association poll, and I'm glad the FCA is now sponsors the poll because to me it makes sense. If you're going to have the coaches poll, shouldn't the American Football Coaches Association sponsor it?
You would think so.
Yes. So I'm glad that that's the case now, and it's not like whatever advertiser you want to throw in front of the coaches poll.
It's not like a failing newspaper company or anything.
Yes. Exactly. So anyway, for those people who don't know, Texas was number 1 in the poll. They received, it looks like, was that 28 first-place votes?
Yep.
And then number 2 was Ohio State with 20 first-place votes. Number 3, Penn State with 14 first-place votes. Georgia at number 4 with 3 first-place votes. And then number 5, Notre Dame. Number 6, Clemson with 2 first-team votes. That's Dabo Swinney plus somebody else, maybe Shane Beamer. Oregon, possible. Oregon comes in at number 7. Alabama, boy, wouldn't that be something? Those South Carolina fans would be so mad if it came out that Shane Beamer was up in
Clemson number 1.
Yeah, that would be hilarious. Number 7 is Oregon. Number 8, Alabama. Number 9, LSU. 10 is Miami. 11 through 15 is Arizona State, Illinois, South Carolina at 13, Michigan, and Massachusetts. 16.
That's Ole Miss.
Ole Miss, sorry. Massachusetts. What's wrong with me?
The Minutemen in the
that
top
would be
15.
You know what though?
That one-win season.
You know what though? That's irony because I just called Ole Miss Massachusetts, and you deserve that, Lane Kiffin. You deserve that for all your hate you spill on Clemson and the SEC and the ACC. You deserve that, buddy. Number 16 is SMU, 17 Florida, Tennessee at 18, Indiana at 19, Kansas State at 20, and then 21 through 25 we got Iowa State, Texas A&M, Mr. Overrated, BYU. Texas A&M's overrated, not BYU. BYU, and then Texas Tech, and then Boise State. I think Texas Tech is too low in this poll.
Yeah, I mean, they went out and got themselves a roster, and I think they're a well-coached football team.
And they're going to have an easier path to get there with the Big 12.
Yeah, I mean, the Big 12 is like anybody's ball game.
It is.
It's like, and the question we've been asking, like we asked last year, is like, is Kansas State ready to step up and win the thing? And they told us no. So I don't know if they're going to be ready to do it this year.
I'm with you. Let me ask you this. So Clemson's number 6. Your thoughts there?
I think that's fair. That's probably about where I have Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
Is like in that somewhere between that 5 to 8 range. I think 6 is fair. They got 2 first place votes, so
yeah,
lines up pretty much with what everybody else is saying. The only thing that I think you look and you're kind of like, huh, really? Is that Notre Dame is the school that's right ahead of them, but
right. I think when the AP poll comes out, Notre Dame and Clemson will flip.
I think so too.
I think Clemson will be number 5 in that.
I mean, and I think Notre Dame's going to have a good football team this year. I'm not saying they're not.
I don't know yet. There's a lot of question marks for Notre Dame. They lost a lot of people last year, and let's see if they can consistently be this good because that's one thing we don't know about Coach Freeman and what they're doing there. can they consistently be that good? So we'll see. I think they're going to be good. I like their roster, but they still got question marks, just as a lot of people do. Is Georgia number 14? They got a question mark at quarterback, big time.
You saw like a tiny sample size that was not good,
right?
From obviously
in the bowl game. Now, granted, he played a very good team,
true freshman with no experience of playing that game, but against a like you mentioned, a very good team. But I don't know. I feel like this year going into the year, and I think this is why Clemson's getting a lot of love, is because there's so many question marks with all of these teams.
Clemson has a fewer question marks.
Yeah, Clemson has less question marks, I think, than Texas.
Probably the only team that doesn't have as much question mark is Penn State.
Penn State, yeah.
Yeah, I think, and when you look at Penn State's schedule, like they got Ohio State, I think Michigan on there. I don't know if they beat Ohio State because they just can't seem to do it. But, or they need a miracle to do it, right? By the way, everybody should love Penn State, because if it wasn't for Penn State in 2016 beating Ohio State, on that same day Clemson lost to Pitt, I think it was. Am I right on this? Yeah. Because if Penn State don't win that game, then Ohio State. Then Clemson probably doesn't go to the playoffs that year. So that game, so Clemson fans should always be thankful to Penn State, because that game helped Clemson get in the playoffs ultimately and win the national championship. I look at this and
But do you
question marks? Texas has got a great roster, but I'm still not a believer in Arch Manning.
Are we crowning Arch Manning king because of his last
Everybody
name?
else has.
I don't understand that. Why they would be number one when they don't have a returning starter at quarterback.
Alex,
the games he started,
he looked great against,
University of Louisiana Monroe or whatever.
He looked great against private schools in high school. And everybody's like, but he played private schools. No, sometimes some private schools aren't that good. It is what it is. Now, some are. Yeah. Some recruit well, and you get teams like him that are stacked, and they just beat the crap out of everybody. But I don't know. When I watched his film, he looked good in high school, but I don't know the level of talent he's playing. Like, I knew the level of talent Trevor Lawrence was playing in high school. He was playing some of the best, right?
Yeah.
And so,
and Deshaun Watson.
And Deshaun Watson was playing some of the best. Exactly. They were playing high-level teams. And so then, like you said, look what he's done at Texas. Well, he couldn't beat out, what's his name? For the starting job.
Quinn Ewers was begging to get beat out.
He was begging last year
for 2 years.
Quinn Ewers' arm was falling off last year, and you're telling me Arch Manning wasn't better than a guy whose arm's falling off?
Yeah, that gives me pause.
That's what gives me more pause than anything. And then, you're right. He played against Louisiana Monroe and played well, but then he didn't play well in those other games.
Dude, honestly, I feel like
he was average at best in those other games. That other game he played against Mississippi State, he didn't play great, and that was a bad Mississippi State team.
Yeah, one thing that's kind of interesting to me in this poll is kind of the order, the SEC pecking order in here. It's kind of interesting to me. You have Texas and then Georgia, Alabama and LSU right there together, and then you get down to kind of this middle chunk, that 15 to 18. You have Ole Miss, Florida, and Tennessee. It's like the kind of the pecking orders is interesting there for me. Honestly, I feel like, Florida could have a really good year this year.
I think Florida.
DJ Lagway, he's a player that wins you football games.
If there's a team who's not in this poll that should be, that should go higher in this poll. I'm sorry, it should be Florida, I think.
They were battle tested, and they went through probably the toughest schedule in the country last year,
and they finished the season strong.
And the second half of the year they caught fire, and
they got all those people coming back for the most part. They got their quarterback, as you mentioned, and DJ Lagway coming back. The teams that I'm concerned about where they're ranked. First of all, I think Illinois may be ranked too low. Yeah, I think Illinois is loaded.
I think they bring
and they got a favorable schedule. Yep. They got that Indiana schedule this year. I think Alabama is too high. I just do not think Alabama is a top 10 team. I don't see it.
I don't believe in Kalen DeBoer. If you want me to be completely honest,
I don't think he's a good fit for Alabama.
I think he'd be great somewhere else. I'm not saying he
no, I'm with you 100%.
Win somewhere else.
I know what you're saying. I just don't think he fits Alabama, and I think it shows.
Yep.
I don't think, but South Carolina, I got tons of questions for. I think they got one of the best, most dynamic players in the country, but they also got a lot of questions. Now, granted, Clemson came out and did well. Clemson says, well, last year they're like, well, we got these freshman wide receivers. We're going to do good. And it turned out to be true. Well, South Carolina's got that same question. But again, they're freshmen, so we don't know yet. I never put all my marbles on freshmen. I just don't. Never have, never will. And then they lost so many people on defense. Yeah. Now they bring back one of the best defensive ends in the country. Yeah, but you know what?
He doesn't have the rest of that crew with him.
He doesn't have the rest of the crew, and defensive ends don't win ball games for you. They get sacks, and they help get tackles for loss, and they're great, but they're not going to single-handedly win a game for you.
Well, especially one.
Well, that's what I'm saying, especially one. So, but then I say that, then Gaines Adams single-handedly probably won a game for Clemson against Wake Forest back in 2006. So maybe I'm wrong.
Great memory of my childhood right there.
I say what?
Great memory of my childhood.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So I understand. I have a lot of questions for South Carolina, and I don't know. Are they top 20? Yeah. Are they top 15? I don't think so. At least not right now, going into the season. I don't think they're top 20. Top 15. Ole Miss is definitely not top 15. Dude, they lost everybody. And they went to transfer portal route.
They did the Mike Norvell thing.
And so, I don't know, are they good or not? I don't know because everybody's, brand new, It's like, it's like LSU's offensive line. LSU went and got some really good offensive linemen.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they've never worked together. And their first game's at Clemson.
Yeah.
We don't know how they're going to be.
Yep.
And so, there's a question mark there. Tennessee, who's your quarterback? I think Tennessee is the most overrated team on this list. They're very good on defense, but their offense, it wasn't great last year. And now you've lost one of your best receivers. You lost your quarterback.
And you have an offensive coach.
I don't think Kansas State is top 20. I don't think they're top 25.
Yeah, they bring back the quarterback.
Yeah, but then they bring nobody else back. And they couldn't get there last year, even with the people they have.
Boise State is number 25.
Yeah. Because they lost the running back, I guess. That's why. But BYU doesn't have a quarterback. He had premarital sex, so he's done. That's their rule. If you have premarital sex, you can't be on the team. Okay. Interesting for Mormons, but I don't want to go there. I guess I won't make this about religion, but that's the rule, though, Alex.
I know, yeah. I think everybody.
That's why the kid's going to transfer.
He's going to Tulane.
Yeah. So yes, John, you're right. SEC gets the benefit of the doubt in rankings as always, no doubt, my friend, no doubt. Arizona State is ranked 11th. Why is Arizona State ranked lower than Miami?
Yeah. I guess people just have a bunch of faith in Carson Beck.
I think Miami's going to be a top 10 team too. I really do. Yeah. I think they've got a favorable schedule and they got a good roster, and I think they'll win 10 games, right? But come on. I would take Arizona State over them because I like Arizona State's coach. He's gotten Arizona State close.
Yeah.
What's Mario Cristobal done? Yeah. He had Oregon, had all those great players in Oregon, and never got Oregon into the playoffs. Come on.
Well, here's kind of my question as we go through this, Will, is, and I see Michigan at number 14. But
overrated, by the way.
Yeah, kind of as we look through this poll is, can you think of a year in recent memory where you went and looked through the poll like this and were like, what the heck is going on? Kind of like what we're doing right now?
Yeah, duh. Not to this many teams.
And I think that's a symptom of this era of football that we're in.
I agree with you.
It's the transfer portal. It's because you really, preseason rankings have always been stupid, since the beginning of time. I hate them. They're the worst thing ever. They're fun to talk about. It gives us something to talk about for 35 minutes.
Yep. Which we've been doing.
Which we have been doing. But, we really don't know anything about a lot of these teams. If you went out and got 15 people from the transfer portal, then I don't know a dang thing about your team. I don't know anything about your team if you went and got 15 people from the
Sorry, we're reading Brady Roberts' message there.
Oh, man. Oh, that's something, Brady. That's something. Not going to put that one on the
No, I
screen.
got to put that up. People can read it on
you
YouTube.
Open that can of worms. That's on you, bud. That's you. Your team.
I love it. I love it. Anyway, Brady, you're not wrong. I'll just say that. You're not wrong. No, Alex, you're right. I just think there's I think this is what we're seeing in this era where I think 8, 9 on down, there's more flux, if you will. It's more fluid. And it's probably going to be that way more than it ever has been before because we got so many question marks. Like, okay, Oregon lost their quarterback and everybody. But Oregon's been pretty good. So I'm okay with them being 7. Alabama at 8, I just talked about that. There's a lot missing there. Who's their quarterback? And the quarterbacks they got, the one quarterback they got sucks. I mean, he's never made it. He's never been really good at all, right? And then they got a true freshman behind him that they think's going to be pretty good, but we don't know anything about him, right? Yeah. And also they got one good skill player, wide receiver. But what else they got? Their running game last year was horrible. Yep. They just lost Jalen Melrose, right, who scored 20 touchdowns and averaged like 5 yards per carry. Nobody behind him averaged 3, right? Yeah. And it has less than 6 touchdowns or whatever. So, that's a big question mark at Alabama. Their offensive line wasn't very good last year. You're telling me all of a sudden they're going to be better this year? And then, as I mentioned before, Miami, I think Miami's got a great roster, but I don't think Carson Beck's a heck of a leader. Yeah. I think that came out at Georgia. That was very evident. There's a reason why if Carson Beck was so good and said he's coming back to school, Kirby Smart let him go. Yeah. I mean, come on, guys. A guy who took,
because they would have backed up the daggum Brinks truck to keep him there if they wanted him.
Exactly. So there's a reason why Kirby Smart. And listen, do you see how the guy dressed I hate to make fun of somebody how they dress, but did you see how he dressed at AC Media Days? I mean, come on, dude. Yeah. I mean, I'm nobody to talk about style.
Fashionistas.
I'm not talking about style, but that's not what I meant. I'm not going by style.
The 7-year-old polo, and
I'm not talking about style, Alex. I'm talking about something else. He dressed like something else.
I get you.
You get where I'm at, and it's a podcast, so I can say that. And I didn't say exactly what it is. I'm just letting people use their imagination, So we'll move on. But I mean, come on, is that a guy you want leading your team?
Realistically,
I just don't get leader out of Carson. I could be wrong, and he could be a great young man, and I'm just forgive me if that's the case. And I'm not attacking him as a, but he left Georgia for a reason. Yep. Georgia let him go more so for a reason. And so that's a big question mark for me when that happens. And, maybe he fits good in Miami because, he's kind of got that Miami swag. Let's just go ahead and say it. Yeah. That's kind of that swag he's kind of carrying with him. So maybe that's a good thing.
He didn't have that at Georgia. So must be something new he found in Miami.
Yeah. I guess after his car got stolen. That's kind of maybe that's what happened.
You get tough. You get your car stolen.
You get tough when your car gets stolen. So,
but realistically, as we look through this poll, it's like, if you told me today, you came back from the future and you told me today that 11 of these teams weren't going to be ranked in the final poll, I'd be like, maybe. That's kind of how it feels. There's just so many question marks about so many of these teams.
Usually it's like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
I'm with you on this. I could see a situation where we maybe get 6, 7, or 8 that are not in this poll at the end of the year.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of question marks about, really 8 to 25. Let's call it what it is. There's a lot of question marks. Even teams in the top 8, there's question marks.
Alan says, is Louisville being overlooked? Alan Watts does over on Facebook. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Miller Moss at quarterback.
Yeah.
But I am a big fan of their head coach. And I
wasn't a fan of Tyler Shuck at quarterback.
Right. That's where I was going. If anybody can turn Tyler Shuck into an NFL draft prospect, then maybe he could turn Miller Moss into one too. I don't trust Miller Moss at quarterback. But I like the head coach. I like what he gets out of his players. He knows how to motivate his players. It's a good question. I don't know. I think it all comes down to Miller Moss, to be honest with you. If Miller Moss plays like Tyler Shuck then Louisville's going to be a hard out for everybody.
And as you mentioned Louisville being overlooked, You know what team we've talked about on this podcast as much as any other team in America? That is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12th highest vote getter with 27 votes. Georgia Tech. Tulane, Army, West Point, Memphis, Iowa, Auburn, Baylor, Utah, USC, Louisville, Missouri, and Oklahoma all have more votes received in this coaches poll than Georgia Tech.
And this is a Georgia Tech team that took Georgia to 8 overtimes and really should have won the game. They were cheated out of the game because that was targeting, if there ever was targeting. But
how does Georgia, how are in this 19 to 25, how do we have, heck, let's call it 18? Tennessee, Indiana, Kansas State, Texas A&M, Iowa State, BYU, who has no quarterback because their quarterback is now at Tulane, Texas Tech, and Boise. How are those teams ahead of Georgia Tech? Who
I don't
brings
know.
back the gutsiest player in the country, a great running back, an excellent head coach, and everybody else.
And a good defense. Talk about a team that actually build their team through high school.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech is Clemson in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Just maybe not as talented a roster, but a roster, but it's a dangerous roster because they play for their coach, right? And they play hard, and they got a quarterback who believes he can beat anybody, no matter who he's playing. And and also Faxon Childress with CCP, he made him mad because he was playing the third string quarterback. He's
got an extra chip on his shoulder because Aaron Philo was playing for Faxon.
Yeah, on College Football 26, you can go look at our last podcast if you want to know what we're talking about. That's shout out to Faxon, great guy. Anyway, so
not a very good tennis player from what I hear.
Well, actually, first time he ever played though, and he went 6-1, 6-1.
He did take 2 games.
He took 2 games from a guy who was ranked number 1 in the state of South Carolina when he's played high school. So,
what does that say about the state of South Carolina?
Well, we talk about that later. Anyway, we're talking about Grayson Band, by the way. Grayson was the one who he's playing. So anyway, got a lot of cameo names we've thrown out there today, haven't we?
Yeah, we're name dropping today, huh?
We're name dropping with the Clemson beat writers. Anyway, all right. So I think we're done with that. I think we all kind of know what we feel like. Keep throwing your questions in, guys. We appreciate it. Real quick, Chris Felica. That's it, Chris Felica. Now we said it
there
right.
We go. We found it.
It's Chris Felica of Fox Sports, also known as The Bear, used to work at ESPN. Earlier this week, he had his podcast, and he was basing it off his rankings where he ranked Clemson number 15 in his poll. And a lot of people asked, why are you so low on Clemson? And his reply was because when he watched Clemson last year, they didn't really do anything to wow him, pretty much is what he said. He said that, they got hammered by Georgia to start the year. Then they went on a win streak where they beat pretty much nobody. They beat a bunch of bad teams, and they did. And he said, give them credit for beating bad teams bad, the way you're supposed to do. Then they lost to Louisville where they got spanked at home. And he's right, they did. And then he says, they were lucky to beat Pittsburgh. They lost to South Carolina at home. And then he says they basically were lucky to beat SMU because the ball bounced right for them on a couple turnovers, or that game's different. And so I'm like, okay. And he says, then, of course, they played one good half against Texas. Okay. All fair points. So, but I'm going to counter the Bears' points on that. And I'm going to start with the Louisville game. Clemson was playing, first of all year without a left defensive end the entire season. And credit to Louisville for exploiting it like nobody else did to that point. For some reason, I don't know why. It was always boggled my mind why somebody didn't try to exploit that. But Louisville did, and you give them credit for it, right? And also, but Clemson wasn't playing with a full deck of cards on offense. They had 2 or 3 starters out. I think 2 starters out on the offensive line, and Phil Maffa was, 20%. I mean, that's where he got hurt, and he started feeling that pains. And actually, Maffa did rush for 100 yards on that game, but still, that happened all later in the game after Louisville built their lead, right? It wasn't like that happened when the game was on the line. So that's my counterpoint to the Louisville game. Then the Pittsburgh game is like, I hear you, but Clemson was up 10 points. Clemson blew the lead against Pitt, not the other way around.
Yeah, 100%.
Pitt led for 1 minute in the game, and then Clemson took it right back.
Yep.
And so give credit to Clemson because they went on the road without their best running back. He was injured, played hard, hardly play at all.
Yep.
They weren't playing with their starting left tackle or starting left guard. And by the way, the guy who ends up starting at left tackle gets hurt on the first play of the game.
Yep.
And they're out without him. And yet Clemson still found a way to win. So I'm going to take that away, right? And then you look at the South Carolina game. Clemson was the better team against South Carolina. Anybody who watched that game knew that. Even South Carolina fans knew it. South Carolina fans said, "Man, I can't believe we won that game." How many South Carolina fans, Alex, told you I can't believe we won that game?
Oh, a bunch of them.
A bunch of them. More than the other way around, And Clemson gave that game away because Clemson should have been on top way more than a touchdown going into the fourth quarter. And then still don't know what the hell Wes Goodwin was doing. I still don't know what he was doing.
You didn't have your best defensive player on the field when the game was on the line.
South Carolina ran like 28 plays.
All over the place all day.
South Carolina ran 28 plays in the fourth quarter, and your best defensive player, Sammy Brown, was on the sideline for 24 of them. I mean, that's ridiculous. I didn't understand that. And so, there's that explanation. And then, the SMU game, okay, you're right. SMU turns the ball over on the first play of the game. But the last time I checked, that was the guy making a play. That was PJ Parker making a play, just like the South Carolina game made a play. Yeah, guy made a play against Clemson to seal that win. Where he makes a great interception that looked like it was going to hit the ground, and he get his hands underneath it. That's a guy who made a play.
Yep.
You can't fault Clemson for the guy that made the play. Now, yeah, Clemson did recover 2 lost fumbles in the game. They popped right back into the Clemson guys' hands, and they got lucky. Yeah, sure, but who doesn't get lucky in a game? Clemson was up 24-7 in that game, Chris. Okay, Bear. Clemson was up 24-7. Clemson was kicking their butt. They weren't moving the ball at all in Clemson. Now they got the rhythm. They got going in the second half, and they made some plays and got back in the game, and you give them credit. But then Clemson's freshman kicker, after having 8 kicks blocked during the season, has the presence of mind because the guy's got a damn pair of you-know-whats that are made of steel, I guess, because how many kickers would survive 8 block kicks? How many? 0.
Kickers? None. Not a one.
We know one now because he goes in there and drills a 56-yard field goal as time expires. Give that kid some freaking credit and give Clemson some freaking credit. They found a way to win that game when everything else looked like they were going to lose it.
Yep.
Now, the Texas game. First half, Texas kicked Clemson's ass. No doubt.
Yeah.
Kicked their ass. But then Clemson made some adjustments, especially on the offensive line. Because Matt Luke, as I said earlier, is one of the best damn coaches Dabo Swinney's ever hired. And he made some adjustments. And guess who didn't sniff Cade Klubnik the second half? Texas's defensive lines. They didn't sniff they couldn't even smell his butt anymore. And they were all over him in the first half, but they couldn't sniff him in the second half. And what did Cade Klubnik do? He ripped them apart, just like their head coach knew he was going to do if they couldn't get pressure to him.
Yep.
And he said that in the postgame. We knew if we didn't get pressure on him, he was going to kill our defense. He was going to exploit our zone coverage, and he did. He pulled them out of zone, and then he started going deep down the sidelines and getting his guys involved. Yep. So give Clemson credit. Don't discount it and say, well, they only played one good first half. Yeah, they made adjustments, what you're supposed to do in a game. And yes, that half, because they made those adjustments and showed what they're capable of, that is why people are high on Clemson. Because they went to Texas, who finished in the Final Four, if I don't recall, right? And came within an inch of beating Ohio State, who won the national championship, if I don't recall, right? I mean, Ohio State needed a miracle to beat them. So, come on. Give them credit. Give Clemson credit for doing that. Don't look at it and say, well, Clemson just went. No, Clemson wasn't a great football team. They were a good football team. And good football teams, no matter the situation, find ways to win. And people need to give that Clemson team last year some freaking credit and stop saying they weren't deserving of being in the playoff and all that. That's a bunch of bullcrap. As quoting Dabo Swinney, it's a bunch of bullcrap. They went 10-4. They earned it. They earned those 10 wins. And they earned that college football playoff berth. And they went and showed they deserved to be in the playoff. And they lost a game to South Carolina that they're going to win this year because they're going to grow from that kind of game for not putting South Carolina away when they had the chance to several times, right? Yep. And I heard one person say, well, this Clemson team doesn't know how to win like others because that, and I'm like, what are you talking about? They started last year 6-1. They were ranked in the top 5 and they get hammered. Yep. Right. And so like, you know, what are you talking about? They learned just like the 2011 team learned. They've learned how to do it now. Last year's going to help this Clemson team in these big games. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah. And that's the point I was going to get to is, and Scott kind of references this here too in a comment he dropped earlier, that the Bears comment seemed dated to me. He was speaking to things from last season that may not be relevant today. Yeah, exactly. Like the defense making boneheaded decisions. There's a different coach on that side of the ball now.
Right. Or you know, Phil Maffa not healthy the last 7 games of the season.
Yeah, well, Phil Maffa's not here anymore. You know, exactly. So they got other people to play running back.
Exactly. You know,
so and that's kind of my thing on it is like, and I was kind of getting in this mode a little bit yesterday because I was looking at some stuff on LSU last year and kind of had to remind myself like, you know, it's not the same LSU team this year that they had last year.
Exactly.
And, you know, it's and they brought back pieces that are just going to get better. Like that, their defense should be.
Should be better.
Should be better than it was last year.
I think their defense will be better. I think their offense won't.
Yeah, I think their offense won't.
Yeah, I think because of
the offensive line.
Right. That's why I think the matchup is Clemson's defensive front against their offensive line.
Yep.
That'll tell us who's going to win the game. If LSU comes out there and they start running the ball and their offense is moving the football up and down the field, Clemson's in for a long day, people. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
If that happens, Clemson's not going to win that game because it comes down to that matchup because LSU's defense and Clemson's offense are going to cancel each other out.
Yep.
They're each going to get their own. You know, so
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So it comes down to Clemson's defensive line against their offensive line. And you got one who we think improved in Clemson defensive line. And we got one that we think probably is not going to be as good, at least right now, as they were last year. Because last year, LSU had probably the best offensive line in the country.
Yeah. And coming in week 1, it's a heck of a lot harder to play offensive line than it is to play defensive line.
Especially on the road.
Yeah.
Especially when your head coach, I'm the offensive lineman. I go up and hit my head coach in the head because he has made life hard for them. I'm telling you right now, count it. There's going to be more than 5 false starts by the LSU offensive line in this game because the Clemson fans are going to be loud and they're going to have false starts because Brian Kelly has pissed Clemson fans off. And so they're going to make it known how loud Death Valley is, and they're going to make it hard for LSU's offensive linemen. A brand new offensive line in their first game, and they have to come into Clemson. Ask Louisville with their best team, with Lamar Jackson, how difficult that is, right? When that Clemson crowd's on top of you, and they're giving you crap the whole game.
Yeah, and that was a team with momentum in the middle of the year. That wasn't a team in game 1.
Exactly.
Under the lights, the first time the place has sold beer.
By the way, before we get out of here,
discounting the beer element is going to be big. But again, Clemson, you should have asked Graham Neff in that press conference the other day what they're doing to make sure they have enough beer in the stadium for those LSU people. Because they're going to drink a lot of beer.
Well, yes and no, but there's not going to be as many LSU people that are going to be in Clemson. There's only going to be 10,000 in the stadium.
I know, but then
so they'll have enough to cover.
They drink enough for 80. Let's call it what it is. Cajuns, they drink hooch and stuff down there now. So,
but speaking of that,
some beers.
Speaking to that though, the atmosphere Friday, I am going out Friday night in Clemson because it's a night game the next day. I'm going out because I want to see the LSU people and how they handle Clemson. Because they're going to be there Friday night, right? We're going to see the yellow and we're going to see the gold and purple right there that night. We're going to, and it's going to be fun. And I want to see it. I'm looking forward to it because there's going to be some trash talking.
I told you that the LSU people they're fun to drink with after a game when they win. They are not fun to drink with before a game.
That's why I want to see them.
When they're playing your team. And if you're not wearing purple and gold, then you're not on their team.
Hey, and frat boys out there, keep your mouth shut. Don't get your face beat in, especially the Clemson frat boy. Who was that we saw just beating the snot out of a Clemson frat boy? A Texas fan, I think it was, or whatever. Just like, if you go on there, you can find it on them. It's like horrible.
Was it like a Georgia fan or something?
Maybe it was a Georgia fan. I don't know. Yeah. This Clemson frat boy, though, was getting his face beat in, and he probably deserved it.
Yeah, I mean, usually if somebody's beating your face in, you did something.
Right. And I don't want to see anybody get hurt. Let me start off with that. I don't want to see anybody. That's why I'm giving this public service announcement. Like, guys, please be smart. Don't get your face beat in. Nobody wants to see you get your face beat in. So don't say stupid things that's going to cause you to get your face beat in.
And if you're going to get your face beat in, like, have 4 or 5 good buddies with you.
I can pull the guy
actually, help you out. Don't have buddies like the guy in the video whose buddy's like over here videoing it so he can post it on Twitter. Or whatever.
Yeah.
Don't go out with that buddy.
Don't go out with that guy no more. Exactly. And if you're that guy that got your face beat in last year, just stay. Don't go out. Just don't go out. Don't give yourself that opportunity to where it happens again.
Sit on the porch with a couple of Coors Lights and
Alex. What do you got to say to get your face beat in that bad? What did you say? Because you had to make somebody really mad.
Yeah, you talking about somebody's mama or girlfriend or wife or daughter or something. Get your face beat like that. That's all I'm saying. That ain't about football. That was deeper than football.
That was way deeper than football. So John Grant says should have Kelly's real Death Valley comments on the big screen before the first snap. I'm interested to see what our friends are at the Clemson marketing team are going to do.
I think I'd have that for after the game. That's kind of how I feel. I'm like, I want to put that stuff after the game. Let's play the football game first, so we'll do that stuff after.
But what I want to see Clemson fans do is make Kelly be all wide-eyed again.
Hey, it don't take much.
Because I think he forgot. I think he confused Clemson with Carter Finley Stadium. That's the only thing I can figure.
Because he played a hurricane in both.
Yes, and I think he confused them, and he forgot which one was really like overwhelming and dominant, and what crowd was. And so, yeah, I think he got confused. So I think Clemson fans need to make him once again, be all bright-eyed, bushy-tailed when he gets into the stadium. So anyway, with that note,
after Will's public service announcement and my serious questions that have not been answered about whether or not Clemson's going to have enough beer for the first football game. With all that being said.
If you were there, I'd be worried about, with you and the Cajun people there, I'd be worried about the beer sales.
Well, because I can do the elevation thing. Like I'm at 6,000 feet, so I get down to about 2,000. I think that means I can have like twice as much beer with no effect. I think that's how it works.
I think so.
I don't recommend trying that out, but
yeah. Remember that guy at the Broncos game last year? He the Steelers fan that was in front of us.
Oh yeah,
he came down a couple elevations at halftime, didn't he?
Yeah, I think people were worried about us at that game.
They were probably. We had a great time though. That was fun. It helped though our Steelers won, so that always helps. So anyway, and I hope I can get into that. We won't talk about Pittsburgh because me and Alex will go down a long road. We'll do that off the air. But anyway, appreciate you guys watching this. Appreciate you joining us. We'll be back next week again. Maybe have some big news next week for our podcast. We'll let you know on that. So tune in for that. So for Alex Dodd, I'm Will Vandervoort. We'll talk to you next week on Believe in Clemson Football.